Thanks very much, and great to be here very early on this morning. I wanted just to start, I should try and explain a little bit about the route, what our government is now doing about data, open data, and particularly about the role of IT within that. And you'll see I have this strange title, IT reform. Be careful, some of the things I'm about to say may cause you distress. We're running the IT for the government, and we've all recognised that there are issues with this. So the fact that we spend more than 1% of the gross domestic product on IT systems to run the British government may cause you some alarm. The fact that we spend more than £1 billion a year hugging the tin of a series of data centres may cause you alarm. Part of what our job is to do is to bring in efficiency, reform and growth. Those are the three main components that the government strategy is aimed at delivering for the British government, but also to deliver growth to the British economy. And that's one of the key reasons I wanted to be here to speak, was to say, and as this speech will show, to try and welcome you to the thinking about working more with government, and also welcome you to trying to influence government more. So I run a small group within the Cabinet Office that delivers change. We also run a spend control process so that when people come to spend money, we can have a good look at their IT plans, because any strategy you make is only as good as its enforcement, so we can have a good look at people's plans. I also want to reassure you that we do try to understand about open data in government, and we are making strong moves within the British government to do that. If I give you one of my chops on this, the £500 transparency in local government you may have heard of about 2 years ago. 3 years ago that became mainstream. It's part of the government's programme, is that all local authorities in the UK must publish their spend data. It was sometimes not the most useful data, but it was the start, it was the beginning. Now the reason that's £500 is because on the night when the council I was in, we voted it through, and I proposed the motion with a colleague called David Burbidge, it was £5,000. And then, because we're venal politicians, we sat down and thought, oh no, the other side will take that, make it lower, and then they'll own it. So it really is that simple. The £500 is £500 because we thought it was easier to get through. But just to think about that, that's now grown into the large open government partnership, which the United Kingdom now co-chairs, the aim of which is to try and help other governments identify similar processes. And it's part of a campaign that we run, and for all of you, it is the orthodoxy. So I'm really preaching to the choir and saying this is open data and open government makes sense. It's the orthodoxy rather like global warming was about 20 years ago. If you just sat down and said global warming is important, people now, it's a given. In fact, the only people I meet now that talk about or are skeptical about global warming, their problem's not with the warming, if you see what I mean. We also have a very strong commitment to open source, and this is a key part. We're not open source because we think open source is the best thing. We are about open source because we feel that that approach to technology is important in opening up markets. And so you may have noticed, some of you who really go through the fine-tooth comb, that in the coalition agreement, the plan for government, probably the only government that has this in its plan for government, we make a commitment that there will be a level playing field for open source in IT projects, and that we will break up IT projects to make them smaller, to make them use smaller components, and to deliver better value for our citizens using technology. That rests on a fundamental premise that we should use open standards. Now, I hope that lots of you contributed earlier this year to the open standards consultation that we ran, because as a government, one of the key things we believe in, if we're going to use data effectively, if we're going to use software effectively, we need to define that we have open standards. We need to define what those open standards are. But right at the root of it was a definition of what an open standard should be. And one of the key things was that we had done it wrong in the past. We had actually included things which we shouldn't have done and made a pretty big mess of it. So we had a very big clearing of house this year, and I hope that by the end of October we will be announcing the outcome of the massive public consultation, which thanks to various stakeholders we were encouraged to extend so that we could make it more inclusive and rerun some sessions. So we're very happy to be able to announce that coming shortly at the end of October, and that will put in place the framework for our government to work with technology, but technology is only good if we open the markets. And that's one of the key reasons I wanted to talk today, because actually we have got most of our IT, most of what we deliver, most of what we develop has been developed using closed systems in a black box, which is part of some huge system integrator contract, which we have ourselves not the right to break into. And it's only by breaking into those and disaggregating that we are able to make a change and able to deliver the change we can allow the data to break free. And so part of my job is to try and break that data free by opening up the markets. We have two main routes for that. One is to disaggregate contracts. So you'll see that some of the large contracts like Aspire are now being broken up. And you'll also notice that new projects are coming in. We are using a different framework for doing the same thing. And that's our disaggregation strategy. That saves us about 30%. If you're talking about 30% of £5 billion, that's quite a bit of money. Now, one of the key things that we also deliver through that is the ability to open market up so that we can get the best people bidding for us. The old business models that we ran before don't work anymore. Having huge, big, waterfall developments of software aren't working. We also see that there are very strong interests pushing against this. So I've just tweeted, if you'd like to look at, just Google that phrase at the bottom, unleashing the potential of cloud computing in Europe. This is where the European Commission are offering to certify cloud services so that only certain groups of companies can pass the bar of being able to host things in the cloud. Now, obviously, we feel that is a tremendously retrograde step because it will enable the oligopoly that have driven IT for many years to be able to police the cloud. Only they will have the certified cloud provision, and consequently, governments will sleepwalk into buying from them, not just here, but across Europe. So part of what we do is to try and make sure that those ideas, if we are going to certify or regulate at all, are based on sensible, open standards, open source approaches, which enable the whole market to be free and enable us to make use of the data and free up the data so that people can work with government to provide better services. Just another fact, really, that we've identified that the more we do with small, medium businesses, the more efficient we become. We leave money on the table if we don't deal with small, medium enterprises. So we have a special push now to get 25% of our supply chain to come directly from small, medium enterprises. And we're going to push to get that up north of 25% using small businesses. And of course, one of the great things we identified, being civil servants, was that some of the people that we got to become small, medium businesses and we helped then became medium businesses. And people say, oh, well, they're medium businesses now, they don't matter. No, the key is we want these businesses to grow and to succeed. And then a different approach to the way that we deal with what we spend our money on is a key thing. I really think we need to procure commodity. There's a very influential character, you may even be here, Simon Wardley, has always been pushing the buttons to say, focus on commodity, make sure the commodity is competed, that you have commodity working effectively and you're able to buy commodity at commodity prices. And then commission innovation. Get small businesses working, get the most effective people working on these things. Now, I can't see, so I can't ask you to put your hands up and say how many of you have done a government contract and worked for the government. But I bet it's not all of you. And actually, if you think about the talent in this room, it's really important that we could try and harness your talent. And we're not going to do that if we have to put you through some massive framework procurement. So we have a new strategy, and we're enforcing that using spend control so that we can change the way people buy things. We can look at what people are going to spend their money on, and we can then say, actually, can you approach this in a different way? The main reason for doing that for this audience is that you can then see what the government is going to do. So we are, as part of our new strategy, going to open up our new spending pipeline so you can see the projects that government is working on. And you can then make the rational decision of whether you're going to invest or not. We're not going to lock it up and suddenly issue a tender, at which time it's too late. We're going to open it up so you can see the information that's coming through of what we're going to procure, because we believe visibility drives investment. And that's why I'd like to say that this government is actually open for you to invest in. If we can open up ourselves so you can see what we want to do, I believe, and we believe, that you will be able to see what government is about to do. It will give you the ability to invest. It will give you the ability to get involved with us, because you have a lot more intelligence and a lot more knowledge and a lot more experience about dealing with large amounts of data than we in the centre, who generally govern by anecdote, feel that we have at the moment. So we're very much, the message I wanted to give you today was that we're open to ideas. We want to know from you what we should be doing better. We want you to be able to help us identify the better ways of delivering public services, and that means delivering public services in a different way. And when I said earlier, one of the things we do, we disaggregate these big contracts so they become slightly more open, but there is a slightly better form of hope for you here. And that is based around another group that I work with very closely, which you may know of, called the Government Digital Service. The future of government is there. All the things we're doing at the moment, we're clearing it up. We're trying to make things more efficient. We're trying to get there. The transformational side of government, and this is one of the few governments that's doing it at this speed and at this pace, is a group of people led by Mike Bracken, Tom Loosemore, Mike Bevan, who are putting together the future of government. They are literally taking government services and taking them digital. I've left my phone behind, but the key thing that we have, I mean, it's got to a stage where I have it on my phone, on the back of it. It says, what is the user need? That is the only question that we ever ask about delivering these new services. And I'm sure that you'll identify that if we start building systems and we start building government that way round, it will help us identify not only going digital by default, but it will identify putting ways of getting ways for citizens to use IT and to use the public services that they're not using at the moment, because all of our IT is locked up. So it's a bit of a journey, and it's also an important step that the government is taking now to radically change our emphasis to focus on new digital development, business transformation, and taking new models. So we have 9 new organisational models that are being digitised at the moment. Some of them you will deal with every day if you're working with government. And those will become newer, more effective, but also digital, which is going to be the end. We are falling out of love with our big tin and moving to a solution which is easier for the citizen to use and also much easier for us to run and ultimately cheaper. I hope that gives you some hope. The idea of today was to say, think about it. We do get the message. We have understood open data. We have understood the power of using digital to get better services. And I hope that will give you some hope to see that there is a future here for you investing your time and your money in working with this government. Thank you very much.